All right, guys, we are live finally for our 2-day event here about selling ourselves here to get a job. So if you're here, come on in and send us a message here. We might not be able to see everything on LinkedIn until after, but we definitely will respond afterwards. If you have questions, comments, concerns, send them in a message or comment on the video and we'll respond. And tell us if you drink coffee or tea. I got a lit up on the coffee. What about you, Jason?
I am drinking coffee as well.
All right. Wait, what does that say on your mug? You're my favorite. Oh, I thought it said you were flawless at first. I was like, oh boy, we need to have a conversation.
That's too high bar to
Okay.
set. I'm just saying to you and to everybody watching, collectively, you're all my favorite.
There you go. What do I have on mine? I have take time to make some happy, to make your soul happy. There you go. You're so happy. There you go. And diving in, that kind of leads into what we're talking about today. We're going to talk about selling ourselves in the job market, of course, but we're going to talk about mostly mindset. And I kind of want to kick it off, and I hope you're okay with this, Jason. We didn't talk about this, but right?
I'm kidding. I'm ready for it.
You're ready for it. So for those of you who don't know, I'm a career consultant, and Jason's in similar. He's recruitment and whatnot, does all the things. But we were talking beforehand about some things that we've been struggling with this last week. And I know a lot of you have lost your jobs and you've been in the job search for a really long time. You're tired, you're worn out. I want you to know you're human, first of all. That's good. Give yourself a pat on the back because that's normal. You're not going to be happy all the time. You're not going to have everything be peachy all the time. I mean, I was telling Jason that I have 2 of my kids who are coming in the middle of the nights with weird nightmares and anger nightmares last night, styes in their eyes, all the things. Exhausted. I'm completely exhausted. Jason got home from a wonderful trip, celebrated his birthday, 50th birthday. Let's give him a round of applause there.
Very much.
And he had to go to a funeral this morning. He was sick on Monday and had to go to a funeral this morning. Guys, we all struggle with life. But I think the most important point I want to make here is if you don't have the right mindset and you don't allow yourself grace and to be able to feel what you need to feel, it's going to be really hard getting through, because I am going to be the first to say, double hands up, pushing through something is going to make things worse in the long run. You might push through and be able to get a job and be on your humming way, paying bills and stuff like that. But you know what's going to suffer? The rest of your mind and body is going to suffer. And it's huge. I know I've had my health issues from that, and you can't just, what's the culture? The hustle culture. You can't just do that. You can't just stay busy and hustle, 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 hustle. We had at church our service on Mother's Day, of all days, talking about stop being so busy and wearing it as a badge. Stop working all the time as a mom, as a dad, as a person in life. If you don't rest, for example, like in our job search, if we don't rest and you're all like, but I need a job. I'm sorry, but no one on Sunday morning is going to be looking at your job application. And if you are, you need to rest, right? I think, and Jason, please chime in because I've been talking already for these 4 minutes, but I think your job search really is about slowing down, reflecting on your career, and then developing meaningful goals. What do you think?
So it's always going to be a combination of both. I think that when I think about the grit necessary to get through your job search, when I think about the strategy necessary, I think about the strategic side of your brain and the tactician side of your brain. And we can't just trust quality over quantity, and we can't just trust quantity over quality. And the thing missing from the quality side often is exactly what we're talking about, which is from the beginning. And if this isn't the beginning of your job search, that's okay. Like today is the beginning of the rest of your job search, and forget all the time, any time you might have wasted. Try to remember all the good things you've done so you can rinse and repeat. So don't just throw out all of the past. But try to think of, I always try to promote an entrepreneurial way of attacking a job search. And if you were going to open your own storefront, before you turned that close sign to open for the very first day, you're going to have to know your store inside and out. You're going to have to know your inventory, know what you specialize in, know what you can source, know what you can sell, know the effects the products may have and the benefits the products may have. And I think that right there in and of itself is one of the things that's missing when
I
it
agree.
comes to the average. And there's plenty of exceptions to this rule. So I'm not calling out the entirety of the job searching community. There's plenty of people who aren't necessarily doing it this way, but there's lots of people who are. We hit the market, we skip the mindset part, we skip the inventory part, we skip the value proposition and the ROI part, and we just start applying to jobs as fast as we can.
Yeah, and these job descriptions too, I mean, some of them are just mind-blowing what I've seen. And it's like you're asking what kind of question and what, like, all this type of stuff. It's really, but I've said this before, you weren't meant to fit in a box. And a lot of people, I think you don't understand too, is these people are creating job descriptions because they need a problem solved in their company. But if you don't know what kind of problems you solve, you shouldn't be applying to the jobs. And it's not, the job description is not an end all be all either in any way. It is a guideline. There's no regulatory on it. There's no form number. It's not regulated in any way, right?
Mhm.
Anyway, but if you don't have the right mindset going in and you're slowing down, like you said, gathering that inventory on who you are. Like I was just telling a friend this morning who works at Amazon and unfortunately he had a very difficult death from his mom. Someone murdered her and they finally arrested the person yesterday. And he's like, I have to go to work tomorrow. I've got all these deadlines and deliverables. And I'm like, but taking one day off to grieve, to get yourself situated, to understand who you are and to release that process. And it's going to take more than one day, but one day you can't just dive right in. And that's what we're all doing is we're diving into the next thing because a company is saying we have to, oh my goodness, there's how many applicants on this job application now? Guys, by the way, most of those numbers are fudged. They're not real numbers. So if you see so many people applied in the last how many days or hours, ignore it. If you want to work at that company, get your mindset set, figure out who you are, what you have to offer, figure out what their problems are, and go with it. Who cares? Ignore the number, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting that a lot of what we're going to talk about in these next couple of sessions today and on Friday is going to have a lot to do with not just responding to the job ads, but it's going to have to do with positioning yourself with the organizations where your value, as I always say with clients of mine, where your value is at its peak, hiring or not. And I get a lot of, I oftentimes will get a lot of initial deer in the headlights talk. It's like, well, what do you mean? Why would I want to get myself in front of a company that's not hiring? Mm-hmm. And I think that many of us know that there is this thing called a hidden job market. We've heard about this before, mm-hmm. But what in the world does that actually mean? What is the hidden job market? Well, there are jobs that are posted. Mm-hmm. There's approved headcount jobs that people have just stopped posting because they're tired of the 500 resumes, 1,000 resumes, 1,500 resumes, and more mm-hmm. that they're getting. But the real big number, the real hidden job market number is, and which I think, in my opinion, and due to some outside data as well, that dwarfs the other two job markets is the amount of companies who are perfectly and happily ready to rock and roll to create an unbudgeted position if the right person, if the right talent is in front of them with the right value story.
And that's the thing, it's a mindset thing. And I had written down a couple of things that I've heard clients say over the past handful of months and seen on LinkedIn too. And it brought me to these couple of things of we have to shift from this scarcity mindset. We've all heard that before, to opportunity. When I was working, gosh, this was back in like 2006, 2007, when I was working at a company, and people, they hated that I said this, but it was true. It's not a problem. It's an opportunity for improvement. what happens is our old mindset says, there's not enough jobs out there. There's nothing there for me. But what we need to do is we need to switch it and say, the right role is out there. I just haven't found it yet. Basically, treat the job market like dating. Not every opportunity is a match, but each one helps clarify really what you're looking for. And you're not going to give up. You're not be like, oh my goodness, there's no one out. I mean, now some people do, right? Like, oh my goodness, there's nothing out there for me. Okay. And now I put a post up, I think it was yesterday or the day before, and I got a lot of riffraff and messages and stuff for it about the LinkedIn Open to Work banner. It can go both ways. And you and I have talked about this too, Jason, of it looks desperate because you're wanting someone to find you. We all want to be found. I want someone to knock on my front door and give me $1 million right now, right? I want someone to find me, right? And do that because I don't know, because they're just being kind and nice and want to do that for me. But at the same time, you're putting that Open to Work banner up because you're like, hey, I am available to work. But you can't just sit there. My boys and I were talking about this morning about, we're Christian and trusting God to provide. You can't just sit back and be like, you know what? He's going to provide and I'm just going to trust in him. You have to do some work. That is a part of it, of putting up like a banner. But you have to think about what is in your heart. Why are you doing that? What are your intentions for that type of stuff? Are you like, oh my goodness, I need to pay bills, so please someone notice me and look at my beautiful LinkedIn profile or whatever it is and blah, blah, blah. And by the way, half of the people who have the Open to Work banner up that I've noticed, half, so I'm not saying all, half, you don't have much on your LinkedIn profile to look at anyway, so why am I looking at you?
Well, it's 100% right. One of the ways that I've described the open to work banner is it really is a way of you describing yourself as open for business. And I'll go back to that same storefront example, and I promise it's the last time I'll use it because I don't like
No, it won't be, guys. It won't be.
All right, maybe second to last time, but nonetheless.
Let's keep track. I'm tallying them. Okay.
All right, here we go. Tally. All right. So it's when you're open to work, you're letting in my opinion, you're letting the world out there know that you're open for business. But what is it that if you're open for business and somebody walks into your store, is the first thing you're going to do to ask them for something? Like ask them to pay you for something, ask them to commit to something. No, and it can't work that way. It has to start with this. I think one of the most important mindsets to get us into is the idea of offering versus asking. A lot of this whole, and this will be a cliche example, which has nothing to do with the storefront, by the way. But
good. Okay, we're only at 2 guys.
as a lot of whether you're applying to jobs, whether you're trying to get into companies where you'd be a great fit, you're talking to friends, you're talking to family, you're talking to friends of friends. It's all good networking. So networking works like this. Networking is very akin to banking. You can't walk into a bank and make a withdrawal before you've walked into a bank and made a deposit.
Yep.
You have to be ready and willing and able to offer something. And in order to offer something, you have to know, what do I have in the inventory to begin with to offer? And of those things, what's going to be the most teasing and tantalizing to what audiences? And then begin to do a variety of things, including posting content, sharing content, connecting, becoming a connector with people that you're meeting out there, and offering things up, taking others' agendas more seriously than your own, even though you're in a very important, crucial in some cases, job search in your own best interest.
Yeah, and I think another thing too, and those are really good points, is when we're talking about the mindset of it all, so many people there's 2 things. They feel rejected constantly. I got rejected. I'm not good enough. They didn't look at my stuff. And yes, that's something that we can think, but we got to, again, flip that script. Maybe this wasn't the right fit. Or guess what? As people do in sales, all right, this wasn't the right fit. I'm one step closer. Or, hey, you know what? I won't reach out to them again for another 2 days. Then I'll reach out again, but I'm going to tweak it a little bit, right? And then the other one is we do this a lot. And I know I do this a lot too, even in my own coaching and consulting. And you probably do this too in some aspects too, Jason, is we have to detach our self-worth from the outcomes. Because a lot of us go, if I don't get this job, it means I'm not valuable, or they didn't see my value. What am I doing wrong? And what we need to do, and especially, and again, correct me if I'm wrong here, a lot of the men out here that I've counseled and stuff over the years, counseled the wrong word, consulted over the years, is attaching that identity and self-worth to a job. A job, guys, is just a role, another role we play, like a parent or a spouse or a friend, whatever it is, community worker, volunteer in our life. It doesn't define our value. And it's very hard to separate those. I know this when I stopped working in corporate, I'm gonna take a sabbatical. It took me like 2 months to get over the fact that, what am I gonna do? What is my life worth now? Oh my goodness, I was working so much. Now what? And I think we really, if we focus on the positive aspect of that stuff versus they don't see my value, blah, blah, blah. We also need to question, well, what am I presenting? Like you said with the, I'm going to do it now, storefront number 3, right? The storefront here. What are you presenting in your store? What is making people come into your store? You might have a beautiful like front and balloons and stuff like that. And then they walk in and it's empty and dark and they're like, yeah, nothing here. You ain't going to be open very long. Right? So we have to know, like you said earlier, what's the value that you are offering? And this is where I say at the beginning, slow down before you speed up. We've all heard that, slow down before we speed up. If we don't do that, we're going to end up in a world of hurt. Daisy?
Yeah, I think on that note, there's another thing that I've noticed, and it can apply to, I think it can apply to professionals at all levels. The second that somebody comes off of a payroll and is no longer being paid for the expertise that they have, many feel as though they either no longer possess that expertise or have a diminished version of it because they are now not working and not exercising those skills. Perfect example is I work with a lot of job seekers on their content strategy. Content is becoming more and more popular. Posting on LinkedIn, posting articles on LinkedIn, coming up with a blog that hopefully you've written most of and haven't entirely used AI to.
Oh, let's not get into the AI thing.
Well, I will actually get into some AI, because AI, if properly utilized,
yes,
can be like your most knowledgeable best buddy and give you some incredible advice. But you wouldn't just tell your friend to just apply to that job for you. You would actually go through the process yourself.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, I think the point of what I was just saying is that as you're taking that inventory of what is it that I do well, a lot of times I'll ask people that question. I'll say, what is it that you do well? And more often than not, they'll start to rattle off things like, well, I'm a great problem solver. I'm a team builder. I'm all of these things. But those questions really are the how. Those answers rather are really the how you do all the things that you do, and how you do the things that you do are really in the eye of your employer, the things that you're delivering. What are some of the outcomes? What are some of the tangible, intangible, quantifiable, non-quantifiable outcomes that all of those attributes contributed to?
Well, and to go off that too, excuse that interruption there, but this is why it's, again, slow down, because a lot of what we do and why we do it is based on not just who we are, but that who we are comes from how were we raised? What kind of environment were we in? What type of jobs have we had? What type of experiences that we had? I was talking to my cousin's husband this morning, and he's like, he's deaf. And so he's been bullied a lot. And so a lot of the things that he stands up for now are a result of the things that he's had an experience with. And that's what we need to sit down and reflect. And when we just dive in, or as I call it, you just putting a blindfold on and just throwing darts at a wall, hoping something's going to stick, it's not going to work. Well, you might get something to stick, but then what's going to happen the next time? Because no one is foolproof in this. The next time that you lose a job, or you have to have a pay cut, or you get demoted because the company has to do something with the resources. Right? And so it all just is this cycle of, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? And then taking that, like you said, and now what is your return? What is the return on investment that that company is getting? Because you're offering that set of services and insight and knowledge and wisdom to them. And how can you quantify it?
100%. And when it comes to that delivery, a lot of times what we'll find ourselves doing is selling the feature benefit of whatever, the different features first and then benefits second. And I ask clients all the time, it's just, it's kind of a mindset question. So I guess it's appropriate here. What are you leading with? Are you solving thirst, or are you selling water?
Yeah.
Because it's the thirst problem that's important to your client. It's that's the issue that you want to be attacking. And if you start to realize that, interesting, I have a knack for solving thirst, I have a track record for solving thirst, and these are the situations, environments, company sizes, industries, markets, etc., that this thirst issue tends to happen most often, the market begins to open up to you, and you start to see it for what it is, which is a whole lot more in your control than just being beholden to what somebody may or may not have posted on Indeed or LinkedIn or whatever your job board is of choice.
And that goes to another mindset thing of, when you said control, it's like, oh my goodness, control the controllables. I mean, so many people out there, and I know part of this is, I'll say it's like this much true, but if we go back, history repeats itself. A lot of people are saying, oh my goodness, this market sucks. I am just powerless, blah, 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 blah. Okay. I'm with you. It's tough. I mean, I still have to pay the same food costs you guys all do. I still have to pay the same rates for utilities and mortgage payments, things like that. We're all in that same boat. But the difference is, I can't control the market, but I can control how I'm going to respond to it. So it's sharpening some of the skills that you have. It's expanding that network. It's the things that are in your control that you've got to focus on. No one can take away. And this is why I love mindset work. And it's funny because I'm looking for a marketing intern right now, and the amount of applications I have gotten, I mean, it's over 350 in less than a week, right? And it's exhausting going through that stuff. I had to actually put a stop on it. Like you said earlier, I had to put a stop because I've got to go through those all. And because each one of those people is incredibly important and deserves an answer. But we can't control how I'm going to respond. They can't control that. So how are they going to react? Are they going to keep pushing? I've had multiple of them. This is not the first time. They fill out the application on whatever platform. They send me an email and keep pushing in that way. They find me on LinkedIn and do that. I actually had someone find me on Facebook too and send me a message too. And they're really adamant about it. It's their attitude. They're not saying the market's the problem, because guess what? This all happened in 2020. How many of us got sent home and lots of jobs lost? What happened in the recession in 2007, 2008, right? A lot of stuff happened. But it's the people who come out of it strong, they change up here and how they're responding to these situations. You can't control what I wish I could control what my husband does half the time. My kids do. And sometimes, Jason, you too. I wish I can control what you do. But, right? Yes and no. I begged to go on vacation with him where he was at in beautiful islands, but he wouldn't take me, guys, and I'm really upset about that.
For the record, I offered you a spot in the carry-on, and you declined. It was that at the end of the day, that was.
Oh my God, I'm worthless. I'm not valuable enough to have a seat next to you. What's wrong with this market?
It was only a matter of timing and a sold-out flight. Otherwise, you'd have been more than welcome.
But this is what I'm talking about. I mean, we can complain about all the things, but if we can't sit there and figure out, okay, I mean, I do this a lot too. I'm complaining about X. Now people are complaining that I'm complaining about X. But the people who are telling me that I'm complaining about this stuff care enough to say something. So I should probably change how I'm looking at it. The people in the job market, guys, are literally rejecting you, not because they don't like you. It's because of how you're presenting your storefront. Okay, we got it 4 times. All right, how you're presenting your storefront. What are you offering them? When I'm looking to hire a plumber, whatever it is, where are the reviews? I have referral. I have a couple of people who are potential clients right now who are asking me a ton of questions for referrals. Can I talk to past clients? Can I like all these different things? And that's good. That's what you're supposed to do. So why are you not doing it reverse? There's another career coach out there that's I've worked with a little bit, and she actually has, and it's coined, and she's in a book now, has a book now, and it's reverse the search. And then there's another one, and she says it's recruit the employer. Because that's what it is. You're both hiring each other. You're both trying to solve a problem with each other. And if we don't get that in our mind and in our actions, then the employer is going to lose out and you're going to lose out. They'll eventually find someone, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, they'll eventually find someone for sure. But let me pose the question to you, because let's let the data talk for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're talking to we both talk to a lot of folks in a variety of different job seeking situations, mm-hmm. all working really genuinely hard to try to find themselves a job.
Yep, I don't doubt that. Mm-hmm.
Would you say more of your clients find jobs by applying to positions they found online, or by networking their way either through warm networking connections or cold networking connections into targeted companies where they know there's a good fit?
Is this a test? Is there like $1 million in your coffee cup?
There is $1 million.
No, I will say that, and I tell this to clients all the time. It's like playing the lottery. Okay. You can play every once in a while, but the odds are so low of playing that lottery. And I call the lottery in the job search process that applying online. You can do that 20% of the time, the 80-20 rule. That's fine. You might get something. But most of my clients, what they're doing is we sit there and we walk through and say, okay, what are you good at? And my favorite question that everyone, if you're going to be a client of mine, I'm going to ask you, so you'll get the advancement of knowing the question now, but it's, what does your mom say you're good at? Like genuinely, she brags to other people when you're not around that you can do and do well. Your mom is your biggest advocate. If she's still here on earth, and if she's not, think about what she was telling you when you were a kid. Most moms are not going to say you can be anything. They're going to be very like, you're good at this. You're probably not good at this, so don't go into that field, right? Think about that. Now you reach out and you start networking. I mean, I love technology and online stuff, but I hate it at the same time because we've lost all of these opportunities to network in person. They're coming back, but people are literally afraid. They won't get dressed in the morning. I wrote a book back at the beginning of 2020, and it was talking about working from home. And part of it was you get up and still get dressed. For women, still, if you wear makeup, put something on. Do your hair. It makes you feel better. Go out, and I challenge you to right now go into a coffee shop. I mean, don't get off our call. Wait till we're done. But like, go to a coffee shop. Go to a library. Go to a community event and be there and start just talking to people. I don't care if they're in your industry or not. I know my husband is really good at that. He'll just go and talk to anyone about everything. He says he's an elephant. He knows he knows this much depth in like everything. There's times where I sit there and he'll bring up a fact to the kids and I'm like, where did that come from? And he's like, someone will need to hear it at some point, right? But the more you start talking to people in real life, and if you can't do that, I understand, then get on Zoom calls and look at a person. But present yourself to people, to the world. And once you start getting used to that, you're able to pick up the phone and call. And I know we wanted to touch on this too, Jason, yesterday when I made our notes when we were talking. It was the phone, guys, isn't dead. You can still pick it up and use it. Please use it. No, you don't text, actually call and talk to a person.
Well, there's the parallel, the metaphor I'll use for that is that there are so many conversations I'll have where it's like reaching out via, you've got LinkedIn is kind of the easiest. Then you've got email is a little harder for some people. And then the phone is just seemingly downright impossible.
I want to throw in there too, please guys, I've had so many people when I've done this, use the voice message feature on the LinkedIn messages. People know then that you're not a robot and you're not a virtual assistant just copying and pasting stuff.
Mm-hmm. And for those of you looking at it, and if I'm not mistaken, it's only available on the mobile app.
No.
Or is that not true?
I am going to actually pull it up now because I think you can.
Have they changed that?
No, you're right. It's only on the mobile app.
All right, look at that. Even a broken clock's right twice a day.
Yeah, but you still, I mean, everyone's got one of these, right? Everyone.
So it's not to say that this is a comfortable territory for everybody, but those people, and by the way, for those of you who are maybe non-sales in related, in terms of the fields you work in, mm-hmm. This act and some of these tasks are equally difficult for people who are actively in sales and calling people all the time because they're not necessarily used to selling themselves. But here's the thing: if you were on a boat that was going down and you didn't, and help was on the way but not quite yet, and you turned to the person next to you and said, I'm really not comfortable swimming.
Push you out.
You kind of don't have a choice in a lot of cases. Or if you want to be, at least you give yourself the closest fighting chance. Now, this is not always a life or death situation, but these things that we're talking about when it comes to some of the outreach, the proactive outreach, marketing yourself and your brand and your most valuable services to the most applicable organizations.
Yep.
These are the way that people are finding the best jobs today. Mm-hmm. Is there exception to the rule? Of course there is. Mm-hmm. But if you're playing the odds, to Vanessa's point, call it the 80-20 rule. Spend 20% of your time responding to ads, customizing resumes, doing all the things you can to put your best foot forward, because those are almost all the time real jobs. Are there some fake jobs out there? Yes, but they're almost always real jobs. Someone's going to get them, could be you. But while you're doing that, also try to think to yourself, what is your knowledge of the markets that you have experience in? Mm-hmm. If you've been part of a 5-year-old startup software company, you don't have to work at another 5-year-old startup software company to know what problems they're likely experiencing. Yep. Or a manufacturing firm, or a higher education, or hospitals, or whatever the case might be. Mm-hmm. And you can go forward presumptuously, as long as you know what your value is, suggesting yourself as a service provider. And I just want to leave this last point with that one thing. You are all service providers. Mm-hmm. You are not applicants. You are not less than or anything along those lines. You have expertise. You've spent many years, in some cases many months, in other cases many decades, putting this suite of skills together. Mm-hmm. Now it's a matter of going out and finding where they're most likely applicable and at their highest value.
And this goes back to, we've got that mindset. We have to grieve the loss. I always tell people, grieve the loss. Don't dive right in. Even when you're changing jobs and you have another job ready, don't just jump right in. Don't quit on Friday and start on Monday. Take that time, grieve the last situation, and appreciate the last situation. Then know what your store is going to offer, right? Know what's going to offer, know what it has offered, know what's done well and what hasn't done well. And then take that, because so many people, and I've been on many calls, and I'm sure you have too, Jason, where the job seeker, right, the service provider, is just verbally vomiting everything they are capable of doing. And we all know you guys have done a lot in your lives. If you have at least 20 years on this earth and you've been working for 5 of them, I mean, you've got a lot there. And then the rest of us who have got, we won't even say how many years, right? We have a lot. What your job is, and it's so hard to do, which is why there's people like Jason and myself to help do this, is take it and put it in a concise format where it's like, where are the gaps in my industry that I've already been working in? And if you want to work in a different industry, figure out what their gaps are too, because guess what? I mean, y'all, for example here, look at regulatory issues in the company of Centene. You're going to find a ton. Oh, there's a gap right there. Check any company quality issues if they're public. Check any company sales numbers. I mean, and this is where you can actually use something like ChatGPT, any of the AI stuff, because it's going to pull that data from the internet and put it in a concise format. And then you can take your skill set plus what the industry's gaps are and say, what is my little story? Think about a campfire. You're sitting around a campfire with your friends. Sounds fun, right, Jason? Let's go.
It does.
Right?
I'm gonna break out in song.
Right? Kumbaya. Right? So you're sitting around the campfire, and what do we all remember about experiences and people? Stories. If you can create yourself, this is your personal brand. Or you can say, because you were just at a funeral, Jason, someone's going to stand up there and do your eulogy. What are they going to say about you? What have you done? And they don't have a long period of time to do it. That's what you have to do, is you have to say, it's like the elevator speech, basically, right? What we've called it over the years. What's my little quick pitch? This is what your company, your industry struggles with. This is what I'm known for doing. And here's a short snippet of how I can get you there. And by the way, especially if you're talking to senior leaders or executives, and a lot of you guys they're listening too, think about this. You want to know the time, more so the money that is being saved by hiring you.
100%. And I'm going to go this mindset piece, and I'm going to very carefully talk a little bit about AI for a second, because this is where AI can be your friend. I talk with a lot of clients about prompt engineering. We've all heard about prompt engineering, and how do I get the most out of my AI platform of choice, whether you're using ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or whatever it might be. Some of the best prompting you can do is when you don't know what prompts to use. And we are so accustomed for so many years to having to perfect the Google keyword search.
I don't want to go to the next page. I don't.
Right. Sometimes it can just be a matter of saying, I'm just starting a job search. I'm not really sure what I do well. I'm trying to impress key stakeholders within manufacturing companies or fintech companies or whatever industry that you're in. Here's my resume. Could you give me some ideas as to where I'm most valuable and what some of the most common problems are you could see me solving?
Yep.
And the same way you would ask a friend, and leave your prompting wide open without being 100% sure if you've keyword search things properly. Just tell them, if you're confused, tell them you're confused. If it's disheartening, go ahead and tell the system that, and then absolutely take in all the feedback. Absolutely don't copy, paste, and send the feedback, because that's not going to make anyone look good. But it can be a wonderful idea generator to get you. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've developed some tools that will just take someone's LinkedIn, someone's resume and convert it into more ROI and value proposition oriented marketing speak. And just about every single time someone uses that, which is just a basic prompt, they always say, I never would have thought of presenting myself that way. There's always some new gold nugget that we've pulled out that can start that process and that thought process and that mindset. Or how do I position myself as a value-added service provider and not as a diminished job seeker?
And that's the thing, is the whole job search process. And I want you guys to realize this too, is everyone, including Jason and I too, we complain about the job search process. It sucks. right? But guess what? It's not regulated. So there is no standard operating procedure for it. Each company is made up of humans who are human, right? And are trying to create something to bring people into their company. So by doing like what Jason is saying and what I teach in my coaching too is as a service provider, it's like you're running your own business. This is your business right here. How are you going to present your business? I mean, Jason and I are both old enough, and a lot of you guys watching too. I grew up with both parents and then both sets of grandparents being business owners. We all tried the workforce and we can't. I mean, we can to a point, but we want to run the show. But we didn't have the internet to go off of. You had to sit there and think and talk to other mentors and friends and colleagues and say, this is what I want to do. This is kind of what I'm good at. And how can I present this? I know the world needs this, but I'm not sure, I'm not confident. And if you don't have someone in your network like that to bounce things off of, this is where that AI does come into play because it gives you more confidence. Like, yeah, that is how I can see myself. And if you might not think that right away, just write it down and or save it and come back to it later and say, you know what? Or share it with your spouse or share it with a friend and say, this is what, is this true about me? Because we've just lost so much confidence because of the process and because of the market and because of just getting rejected and feeling worthless over these last handful of months and years that it takes a toll on ourselves. And this is a confidence boosting or self-esteem booster that it's true. That's what we say, but it's, you have to check it, of course, because the internet's only good for what it's put in there and whatnot, right? I can put in junk and still get junk out, right? But I think there was someone who was mentioning, it was either on LinkedIn or Instagram or something, putting something in the chat GPT and it's telling you that it was like not good or something like that. And it being, oh, you know what, you really are so good and like type thing. It's always going to be positive. So kind of take it with a grain of salt. But if you put that truth in, like you upload your resume, like Jason said, and you ask the questions and you say, hey, I am confused, it's going to provide you with more. And it's going to give you promptings. A lot of times I had something pulled up yesterday. What was it? It was like, oh, if you need assistance with this, feel free to ask for more detailed information. I can type in, I would like more detailed information. And it's going to provide me. It's not going to provide me with everything that I want. I mean, there is time I was looking up a recipe the other day and I was like, I have this food in my house right now. And what can I make that's within the paleo diet? And it came up with some stuff. I'm like, well, that's not paleo. I know that for a fact. So you have to check it. Okay. Mm-hmm. But we have to, I guess what I'm going to say with the mindset thing is it's not about ignoring the frustration of the whole process. It's being resourceful and it's about choosing the perspectives that, I don't want to say, energize you versus completely just drain you, right? Understand what your why is. I tell it to my clients all the time, like, what is your why? Not just that you need money, right? And you need a job to provide, but what's deeper than that?
Yeah, 100%. And to like the perfect segue there is, one of the viewers had put in just a statement saying, which is so accurate: be good at selling yourself. Mm-hmm. I've worked in sales. I've worked around sales. I've employed salespeople for decades, and I've come to one very strong opinion that besides a good work ethic and besides a little grit, because it does take that to be good at, well, most things. Mm-hmm. The number one thing that gets in the way of us as salespeople, and if you're in a job search, have no illusions, you are a salesperson. Mm-hmm. as it currently stands, because you're selling yourself. The number one thing that gets in the way of someone making an enthusiastic, energized sales call, or what's the word I'm looking for? There's nothing like freezing up live looking for a word, but I
do it all the time. I'm human.
Absolutely no, but making more of a frightened phone call because of fear of bothering somebody. We just don't want to bother people, and what gets in the way of that is a lack of understanding first, and then I'm going to say evangelistic belief
Mm,
in the value you have to offer.
yeah.
And that one, I might have used this last time. I'm going to do it again because you mentioned my coffee cup example.
Yes.
I'm going to sell my coffee cup yet again.
Hmm.
And if I was selling this coffee cup for $50 and I knew that there's $1,000 cash inside the coffee mug, think about how simple it would be to rebut an objection. Think about
Hmm.
how easy it would be to tell somebody who told you no, hang on for a minute. I actually have something of significant value to offer you here.
Yep.
And the more you know your value and the more you know that you likely have a track record for not being unnecessary overhead, but being profitable investments for your previous employers, you can articulate that value in a way that, hiring or not, if you walk into my company, and I've done this before, I have impulse hired many, many, many employees that I wasn't budgeted to hire because they walked in, presented themselves with value. And I said to myself, yes, this might be a little early, or this might be not exactly in the plan this quarter, but I don't want this person working for my competitor. I want this person as part of my company. I'm going to make an exception. I'm going to open up some value, some budget, and I'm going to bring this person on staff. And I've done that in the past with individual contributors at an early stage in their career, and I've done it with higher paid executives at latter stages in their career, in both cases. And I don't run a giant company either.
Well, and there's talking about sales and whatnot and selling yourself. I remember back in, what was it, 2014, when my husband really started getting into sales, and we were at some events where they're like, here's the phone, and here's a list of people you're going to call. And he's like, and I just remember I was trying not to laugh because I'd done it before. He hadn't. And he was like, I'm bothering these people. And it's like, well, I mean, they don't have to answer your call, right? But what you're offering something to them. And they wanted us to do something that was practical, like, hey, you're offering a amount of money to them is what it was. And I was like, but once you get them on the call and start talking, and you're confident in yourself and the product that you're selling, or in your guys' case is the job seekers, the service that you're selling, you're going to get the sale. There's Jack Daly, right? He's a big sales guy and stuff like that. And I had put his quote up here, and it was like, when you care more about the customer than the sale, you're going to sell more than anyone else. And that applies in the job search, right? When you care more about the company, it's not going to matter. And what you're trying to solve for that company, because that matters to you. That's why it's the why again, not just because you need a paycheck. We've all worked with those people or employed those people who are just collecting a paycheck, right? They don't add much value to the company, and those are usually the first to go. But if you can sell yourself, your services, remember, you are an entrepreneur selling your services to someone, and you have to sell them well enough for them to buy your services. And you have to do it at a time that they need your services. If you try to sell yourself once, don't give up. Remember, again, the job search process is not regulated. So you can apply to the same job if you're choosing the apply online route. You can call the person and approach them in many different ways. Some of the best salespeople I've ever worked with have approached the same problem, the same sale in a different way. And they're annoying as, I can't say the words, but they're so annoying, but they do it in different ways. They're offering to help. Some of my best sales guys, when I worked in manufacturing, they'd call my office. I wouldn't answer because I'd see who it was. They would email me, and then it would come up to my office, and I'd be like, I can't do this right now. I will get to it. But if you want to help, please head down to the shipping department. They're really struggling right now. And then they go and do it. See, you're not just selling exactly what you have to offer. You're offering your whole self as an asset to the organization. We're all going to go, and going back to the job descriptions, that's a set of things that you're going to be tasked to do. And you're going to have, what's the word? You're going to have goals that are associated with those tasks and performance reviews to see how far you've gotten, of course. But it's what you do outside of those things that is going to make you a valuable asset too. When you go into a company, if you're working as a and let's say a procurement manager, purchasing, let's just use purchasing manager. And you have vendors to deal with. You can't go really work at the vendors, but your service as a purchasing manager affects other people in the company. So why not learn what's the other department or people receiving your services need by working with them for a little bit, doing their job a little bit, and then you're a better purchasing manager as a result, because you're not just caring for getting your job done, you're caring for the next step in the process. Heck, go even further, go past, right? Usually it's operations, go to accounting, see what they need, see what problems you cause them, right? And how can I fix that? Y'all want a real kick? Go sit in a customer service department for the day. No one calls customer service and says, I am so grateful for your product and services. Thank you for doing your job at your company. No one does. They call because there's a problem. So that's actually a good place to start too, and probably close to a good place for us to end our topic today is if you want to find a job that's hidden and you know your industry, talk to the companies you want to work for's customer service line. Call them. See how long you have to wait. Maybe you're an efficiency engineer, right? See how long you have to wait online. Call and ask some questions. Hopefully they're not automated and reading from a book, right? See some of the problems. Google it, chat GPT it, any of that type of stuff. It's there. The information is there. And if it's not, keep asking. See how you can be of value.
I'm gonna add another fun little drill to go through, which I've here I go again. I'm gonna promote a little use of AI. But using the not just the job descriptions that you're personally seeking out, but actually using job descriptions that you might find. Let's say you found a company that you were interested in going to work for, and they may have multiple job postings. What you can actually do is use that job description and share it with ChatGPT, for example, and ask it, what are some larger scale problems that this company could be facing based on what's presented in the job description. If you want to even take it a step further, drop your resume in there and talk about how could I be positioned as a solution to some of those problems.
Yep.
Now, what I'd like to leave everyone with is just a little bit of homework that you can do on your own, or you can do in preparation for our next setting, or our next session rather, which I take people through all the time, which is, regardless of whether you are interested in doing so or not, consider the thought process of starting your own individual consultancy, and think of that as the only way you can make money.
Yep.
Now, again, it bears repeating. I'm not expecting everyone to do this. But if you were going to do so, a very simple T-chart you could develop, which would be your dinner napkin business plan, is going to be on one side, what is your value-added service going to look like? 1, 2, maybe 3 bullet points of critical key expertise and outcomes that someone could expect as a result of your job well done. And then on the other side, we begin doing some searching online for companies and organizations that meet the criteria of being the type of organization where the problems that you best solve most likely exist. And we can go into more detail on that. But if you think of yourself and your brand as a service provider and as somebody who's all about creating value by solving problem X, problem Y, problem Z, promoting growth, minimizing waste, mitigating risk, and all of the things that people really truly get people get paid for and deliver a lot of value with, you'll begin thinking a lot more entrepreneurially about your search. And as you're looking into these organizations and considering how you can present yourself to them, network within them, etc., my thinking based on past experience is you're going to see the market start to open up a lot more, and a lot more potential doors open up, and a much greater sense of ownership over your search, instead of feeling a lot more subservient to just being able to hopefully being able to shoehorn yourself into the best and potentially closest fit for your background, which might not even be that good a fit. So
Yeah.
those are sense.
No, and I think those are good things. I mean, it was just a couple weeks ago, we had some high school kids who were walking the neighborhood, and they had a cart full of window cleaning supplies. Went up to every single door and said, you know what? I notice your windows need cleaning. Like, they came to our door and said, I notice your windows need cleaning. It looks like you've got some boys who tend to make a mess, right? They recognized the situation and said, we would love to be able to clean your windows for you. Can we give you an example of our work? And I said, sure. And came and cleaned one of the windows. I'm like, wow, you guys really do a good job. Right. So that's another thing you can do. You can do the window washing if you want, but they observed what was going on around them. They had a service they wanted to offer. They obviously had a reason they were offering that service. They didn't explain that. I didn't need them to, but they saw, I had dirty windows. I have boys who, yes, throw mud pies at the house all the time. But they saw a problem, and that I wasn't out there cleaning it, and that they could do that for me. I would never have put a sign on my door saying, I need a window cleaner. I wasn't offering a job. They saw a need and attended to it. And because they saw that need and attended to it and gave me an example of a free window cleaning, I offered them the job. It wasn't something that I was looking for that day. I was upset because the boys were throwing mud pies at the windows, right? But those are things that you guys can do out there. That's what being a service provider is. Don't forget this world has a community of so many different opportunities. Use yourself to be a part of, whether you get paid your $500,000 a year that you want, or you get paid 60, you're still offering something. Don't attach your worth to a dollar amount. We have bills to pay, yes, but if you just focus on that, that's another mindset thing. That's a scarcity versus an opportunity thing that we talked about earlier.
That's a great example, and one if we're coming close to the end of time, the end of our time here, probably closing down on, because I mean, you just described a real life situation where you hired an unbudgeted service provider and had no idea they even existed till they were literally on your doorstep.
Yep.
And opted to go ahead and make that hire when you had no plan on doing that morning.
No, my husband wasn't too thrilled about it, but whatever. I think I needed the windows clean and I was not going to do it. I probably would have spent more money in resources than I would have paying them.
100%. And as an owner of staffing and recruiting companies, I can tell you that we have made not tens, not hundreds, but thousands of placements over the years because we brought someone forward after knowing enough about the organization where we knew the value would be there. We didn't necessarily know if the budget would be there, but we knew the subject matter would be interesting.
Yep. And
if you know your subject matter is going to be interesting, there's 3 things you want to become in this case. If you can do all of them, great, but at least one of them, you want to be interesting and or relevant and or valuable. And if you can become any one of those 3 things, you're going to make it onto the radar of these organizations that are so sought after in your minds. But it's going to take outreach and maybe a little bit of discomfort along the way, but it's going to pay off.
Oh, absolutely. And even my own personal story, I didn't apply to jobs when I was in the workforce. There was one when I was getting ready to move to Arizona. My husband and I had a little bet. We're like, whoever gets a job in Chicago or Arizona first, that's where the other person moves. And I literally went into companies. I didn't know everything about the company. I knew the decision makers, the owners, and the product that they had. And there was one of them, I just sat in the receptionist area. I'm like, I'm going to wait until they come down. Someone has to come down for lunch at some point. Not only did they come down, but the receptionist got to be a firsthand witness as to my professionalism, my persistence, the value I was adding, because the conversations that I had in there with anyone who walked by, it wasn't just waiting for the people I was waiting for. And we can still do that today. Everyone wants to work remote and stuff. That's great, but we can still do things like that today. So that's something I want you guys to do, is don't discount the people along the way in the process that are advocating for you silently. Every step does count. Those kids that came to our front, they weren't disheveled. They were nicely dressed for the job, right? They weren't in suit and ties because they were window washing, but they were nicely dressed. They were clean cut, and they came and did the job, and they spoke for their age appropriately. And while they were doing the job, they weren't like bad mouthing or talking or swearing, anything like that too. That's huge, guys. That's another part of selling yourself. So also be careful too, as we end up here, what you're posting on LinkedIn, what you're posting anywhere, who you're sharing. So even in the messages, guys, by the way, someone can screenshot that and send it somewhere. Beware.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of your brand identity, your service, your company that you're offering. Anything else? That was a mic drop. What do we do? I'm not going to.
Yep. I think that was the mic drop moment right there. I think
Okay.
all great points. Thank you for having me, by the way. This is a wonderful opportunity.
Of course. And then guys, before our session on Friday, I don't remember what day it was. Friday, I did that twice now today. We want you to be able to either message Jason or I on LinkedIn and send us your questions and say, hey, you know what, this is questions I have, because we're going to be diving in deeper to the strategy as to what we have done well with clients. And if you have registered through the link, and you went through the landing page and stuff like that, you will be getting this as a replay. Okay. And you'll get other little bonuses too. We have other things that we are going to be able to share with you. So I would suggest doing that. If you're just watching us on LinkedIn Live, that's great, but get the link to register. I'll be posting that again for Friday. Share it with friends, because sharing is caring. Is that phrase like gone now? Sharing is caring? I don't know. I don't care.
Well, no, sharing is caring. And then to add one more little cliche on top of that, like for me, if I'm trying to think as some members of who might be watching this and thinking there's going to be some people that are very comfortable with it, some people middle of the road, and some people wildly uncomfortable. And I think a lot about Friday is going to be, okay, now the rubber has met the road. We're going to take all this mindset and all this strategy, and we're going to say, how do we actually put it into action? How do we make it? So by the time we're done Friday, the idea is you're going to have some actionable, non-theoretical, not that we've been fully theoretical here. I think we've been very actionable regardless, but you're going to have some actionable items that you can put into place as soon as you're offline and change the way that your search is going. So hopefully we can.
By the way, guys, we're going to have a little surprise at the end of Fridays. So you're going to want to stay or sign up for the replays, because it's going to really, really help. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. Just sign up and be there. But yeah, we will see you guys all Friday, same time, same place. We'll see you then. Okay.